Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us for a fast chat hosted by Wards Auto. My name is Maite Bezerra. I am a senior principal analyst with Wards, and I'm joined today by Ilya Saufulin, product manager for eBizonio at Electrobit. Ilya, welcome, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Maite, and thank you for having me here.
Well, today we are in for a really interesting conversation because we're going to talk about how to master the challenges of the in-vehicle network. And so let's get started. Ilya, I mentioned that you are the product manager for the eBizonio. So could you give us some details of what the eBizonio is and why it has been introduced by Electrobit?
So I would like to start with why. The point is that now there is a big shift in automotive industry. There is more and more networking inside of it. There are way more data, such speeds like gigabit Ethernet is introduced and so on and so forth. It requires special solution because the standard approaches, they do work, but they have limited capabilities, limited functionality. And in order to cope with this new demand for functionality, for performance, reliability, and so on and so forth, new solutions have to be introduced. That is why in 2021 at Electrobit, we've decided that we need to have a dedicated product line focusing on, let's say, highly performant and very efficient solution for e-vehicle networks, closely related to hardware, to key components, and so on and so forth. And this is how eBizonio was introduced. So to maybe a couple of additional words. So the point is that in automotive software, it's not like a standard software. It's very deeply embedded, very tightly coupled with hardware. And there are a lot of components like switches, microcontrollers, so those chips, which are required additional and special software inside. And they have to be according to automotive standards, according to safety qualifications, and so forth. And we are in Zoneo, we are providing software for network components like for switches or special transceivers and so on and so forth. And it's exactly the nutshell of Zoneo. Additionally, maybe the name might sound strange, but there is a shift to zonal architecture. And Zoneo stands for it. So zonal network, Zoneo. This is how we came up with such a name.
Fantastic. So just to make sure that I understand, so you are providing some abstraction layers to make it easier for the automaker to deal with the different software layers and components required in the in-vehicle networking.
It's one of the things we are providing. It's completely true. But additionally, on top of that, we are providing the access and integration of hardware features into the software world. Because you can do many things in software. You can do everything in software. But what about performance? Sometimes there are certain limitations. And in order to speed it up, the hardware has to be taken into the game. And we are filling the gap with this specific software forum, these hardware accelerators, and we are bringing it to the typically normal software world. And this is how we achieve this high performance.
Fantastic. And you mentioned a few names, you mentioned switches. And when we think about the in-vehicle networking, there are several elements that consist of it. What would be the key elements in your opinion?
Yeah, so in my opinion, there are basically three main network elements. So especially right now with the shift to the zonal architecture of vehicles, the point is that there are some edge ECUs where basically the actuators or some data is gathered, sensors and so on and so forth. Then there are middle ECUs, so-called zonal ECUs, where the data is aggregated from all different network, let's say, elements, from all different buses like CAN, LIN, FlexRay, and Ethernet. It's a place where the data is met, and then it's sent over to the central processing units, and so-called HPCs, and there the data is aggregated for ADAS, for some infotainment, and so on and so forth. So those are three elements, key elements, and each of them, they have their own challenges. But I would need to say the biggest challenge now in industry with this shift to zonal E2E architecture is inside of the zonal ECUs.
I was thinking that because, as you say, is aggregating the data from different types of network, right? So connections. So how can you address the challenges and potentially improve the performance in the zonal ECUs?
It's a very complicated question, but very good one. And I think many OEMs would spend a lot of money for getting the real clear answer for it. But one of the solutions there is to use hardware as much as possible. Because frankly speaking, I'm from software companies, this is clear, but I need to say hardware is faster than software. It's less flexible. It's important. It's impossible to introduce new feature in the same hardware, but that's why you need software and so on and so forth. But hardware is faster than software. And the point is that new hardware, new microcontroller system, which were introduced this year, maybe last year, they have special accelerators for communication. And those accelerators, they can really do the things faster. We have some measurements, and we saw that when you enable and properly integrate those hardware accelerators into, let's say, your normal software flow, you can improve performance by a factor of 3 or sometimes up to factor of 10, which is significant. And when you cleverly use the hardware, and you have also special, let's say, configuration tooling to make it simple, it's really essential. It's really a game changer here because, I mean, what are the other options to make or to use more powerful CPUs, but then it's power consumption, it's cost. And in the end, nobody wants to have a second heater under your seat instead of small chip, right? And then the cars are getting more and more expensive. There is no win-win situation. But when the cars are getting less expensive, but more performance, this is, of course, definitely a win-win for the customers and for the OEMs. And another point that when those hardware accelerators are used, actually they are leading not only to better performance, but they're also leading to lower power consumption, which is also extremely useful when we are talking about EVs. So those are the little puzzle pieces which can, in the end, 10% here, 20% there. In the end, you can see that actually we have way more free resources, and it enables us to either provide longer updates, better updates, or to implement new features inside of the same hardware architecture. And this is one of the key roles key features in my opinion. So the solution, hardware solution is there, but the software, let's put it this way, was missing. Because with recent launch of some products from Zoneo, we have the tooling to enable the hardware.
Fantastic. I think this is a really important launch. We focus a lot on the HPCs, but as you just explained, the zonal ECUs will have a very important role moving forward when you think about software-defined vehicles, especially in delivering this updates throughout the sensors of the vehicles and connecting the sensors as well.
Yeah.
Ilya, this has been a phenomenal conversation. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you also for your time.
Fantastic. And for those watching, I really hope you enjoyed the discussion with Elektrobit about how to master the challenges of in-vehicle network. Thank you all for watching.